Did you know that the very first airline in America was a secret? When the Wright brothers flew in North Carolina in 1903, everyone celebrated. But behind the scenes, powerful groups were already making plans. You see, those early flights were quickly tied to the US military, and the first contracts were not about giving people freedom to travel. They were about control and information. From the start, the skies were not only about flying, but also about spying. By the 1920s, American cities like Chicago and New York were filled with excitement about flying. Airlines promised safety and adventure. But behind the scenes, things were not as they seemed. Records show that many accidents were hidden from the public. Families never learned the truth. Reports were edited before they hit the newspapers. The reason was simple. Airlines feared people would stop trusting them, but that's not all. Airline companies in the US also began collecting details about passengers long before the idea of data was popular. Names, routes, and even habits were quietly recorded. People thought they were just buying a ticket. In reality, airlines were building one of the first hidden databases in the country. This is one of the biggest scams in history. In the 1930s and 40s, flying across America was sold as the future. Airlines advertised luxury, speed, and safety. But behind the scenes, accidents were happening all the time. Official reports from Washington, D.C. confirm at least 70 unexplained crashes in those decades. But many of these accidents never made it to the front page. The airlines worked with local newspapers to keep it quiet. If people knew how unsafe flying really was, the whole industry would have collapsed. So airlines like Pan Am and TWA covered up hundreds of accidents. They experimented with dangerous new engines and overloaded planes with passengers. They broke safety rules and hid the truth from the public. And if you didn't like it, they offered your family money to stay quiet. Lawsuits were settled in secret and the truth was buried. The promise of safe travel was a lie. And the airlines knew it. They just didn't want to admit it. Every airline wanted to dominate the market. Admitting mistakes meant giving your competitors an advantage. Even when the government stepped in to help, it wasn't enough. Airline lobbyists had too much power. They buried the truth and profits soared, but at what cost? Did you know that by the 1950s, air travel in the US was a secret war? The jet age began, and with it, a race for control. Companies like Pan Am and TWA fought for dominance in the skies. It looked like business rivalry, but it was closer to a secret war. Behind closed doors in Washington and New York, powerful airline owners fought tooth and nail for government deals. The competition was fierce. If an airline won the lucrative New York to Los Angeles route, it could make millions. If it lost, it could go bankrupt. So lobbyists filled the halls of Congress. Politicians were promised campaign donations in exchange for their support. Airlines grew not just because of innovation, but because of hidden agreements made in smoke-filled rooms. The public saw progress in the skies, but they didn't know it was engineered by money and politics. As jets replaced propellers, airlines competed on speed and luxury. But with every new plane, there were new risks. Passengers had no idea that engineers were being pushed to deliver faster aircraft without proper testing. They only saw the marketing that promised the future of travel. But once again, safety was being sacrificed at the altar of progress, and this race for the skies was also a Cold War battle. U.S. airlines were quietly connected to intelligence operations. Some flights carried more than passengers. They carried secrets. People boarding planes in Chicago or Dallas never knew that their trip was part of a larger political game. This is a story of hidden empires. The race for the skies was never innocent. It was a fight for who would control the future of America. And sometimes the most important battles are the ones you never see. By the 1970s, flying was part of everyday American life. Middle-class families from New York to California booked flights for vacations. Businessmen flew weekly between Dallas, Chicago, and Los Angeles. Flying was no longer a luxury, it was normal. But even in this age of growth, airlines kept secrets. One of the biggest was data. Airlines learned that passenger information was valuable. They began building systems that tracked travel patterns, spending habits, and preferences. Passengers thought tickets were just paper, but in reality, every purchase was recorded, stored, and analyzed. The public was never told how much data airlines kept. Passengers had no idea that their names, addresses, and payment methods were already part of massive files. What today we call big data was already starting in the airline industry. At the same time, ticket pricing became a hidden system of control. The same flight from New York to Los Angeles could cost passengers very different amounts. Algorithms, hidden from public view, were designed to take the maximum from each traveler. The system was never about fairness. It was about profit. Behind the friendly flight attendants and smiling ads, passengers were being studied, priced, and managed. They were not just travelers, they were numbers in a hidden game. People trusted airlines because they saw comfort and convenience. What they did not see was the invisible network of data, deals, and profits that surrounded every single flight. Today's airlines are bigger than ever. From New York to Los Angeles, from Dallas to Chicago, millions fly every week. But the secrets never disappeared. They only changed form. Modern airlines use algorithms to control everything: ticket prices, seat upgrades, even how delays are explained. Passengers believe they are in control when booking flights. In truth, the system is designed to guide every choice they make. Alliances between airlines also remain hidden. Companies that look like competitors often share profits behind the scenes. A passenger may think they are choosing between two airlines, but in reality, the money goes to the same pocket. The illusion of choice is carefully created. Security too holds secrets. Since 9/11, passengers have accepted strict airport rules. But many of these measures are less about safety and more about control. Files show that airlines and government agencies share passenger data in ways the public still does not fully know. Every trip is tracked more deeply than most realize. Some routes exist, not because they are popular, but because they serve political or business interests. Airlines continue to operate as more than transportation. They remain tools of power, profit, and influence. The story of American Airlines has always been the same. Behind the progress, there are secrets.